Trump announced that Project Freedom is on the pause and the markets are loving it. We're seeing stock markets hit all-time high, S&P 500, the Nasdaq. Individual stocks are skyrocketing. We'll talk about the current situation. Let's get into it. Please read the disclaimer. Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, moneymakers. So Trump pauses Project Freedom after Gulf allies push back. Trump's plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz was halted after Saudi Arabia restricted U.S. access to its airspace and bases. Gulf nation allies were caught off guard by the announcement, with tensions forcing a pause to restore critical military access. It's very interesting that every single time that the yields, the 10-year note yield gets to that 4.5% level, suddenly there's some country that tells Trump to do something, or there's someone or some reason why mysteriously Trump decides to pause, to postpone, right, his things. It makes sense. He likes to use this tactic to chicken arm the enemy, and then when the enemy is at its lowest, or that the markets are telling him, giving him a signal, you went too far, he pulls back, right? But this is a tactic he uses, and it's doing okay. Okay, we can't go against that. He tweeted out, the stock market is hit an all-time high today, baby. Jobs and 401ks are booming, right? This is the president of the United States. And yes, he is correct. S&P 500 hit all-time high. We saw the NASDAQ hit all-time high. It's already at this is the NASDAQ 100, 28,600. This S&P 500 is already at 7,378. I don't know if you remember, but when we started the year around February, there was a lot of people that were saying we're going to experience the biggest crash of all time and things like that, yada, 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 right? But that never happened. We had this quick sell-off on the stock market and then this massive recovery. And yes, it is a factor of two things. It's a factor of the risk of an Iranian attack is basically off the table for now. So when you have a situation when there's less fear, people have a tendency to invest, right? When there's risk, then there's less potential for people to invest in that asset. It also helps that there have been a few mega stocks that have been going crazy, and that is of course affecting the situation. If we look at Intel, of course, that has gone up significantly over the past few months, and the US government of course famously invested in Intel, up 173 in 55 days. You got SanDisk, which is up just crazy numbers over the past few months. The whole memory AI sector, 3,000% over the last 275 days. You got Micron, which is up significantly, that is pumping. So all this, of course, is since the dip, it's up 118% in the last 30 days. You have Iran and things like that have Iran stock that also up almost 92% in the last 45 days. So you have these, of course, AMD, right? Up 121% in the last 42 days. Yesterday had a big earnings day pop in. NVIDIA, of course, is up as well, but less in a lesser cent. And then you have the usual suspects, Apple, that has recovered close to new all-time highs, and we have Amazon stock that has recovered off the dip. Since the war dip is up 40% last 42 days. So all of this is affecting the S&P 500, the stock market, the Russell 2000 just hit all-time highs. Small caps were, they were slower than others for a few years, right? So the small caps were lagging behind the Magnificent Seven, but they've caught up. And you can see in many portfolios, yes, the Magnificent Seven have been holding a significant amount of the S&P 500 move, but still, the Russell 2000 shows us that small cap has been recovering, that there has been a lot of risk on investments. A lot of this is AI, right? A lot of companies came out of nowhere suddenly that maybe were moving sideways for a while or declining. Suddenly, the fact that AI centers are using their products has shot them up significantly. For example, here, Applied Optoelectronics that I've been watching for many years already, that dropped all the way to $1 and then ran up to 178. You got Bloom Energy, for example, also similar, going from, in 2024 from about 8 to 285. Coarend, for example, that dropped down in April of 25 to 46, and now it's 344. So you have all these companies that have this AI play that have been doing amazing in the stock market. You also have other stocks, that are maybe don't really have AI, like SoFi that, ran, but has pulled back about 50% from its high because of certain things. And you have Hood, Robin Hood, that is, dropped down 150 to 68, that was, really hot and now is pulled back. Google is doing also very, very strong, all-time highs, keeps creating all-time highs. So that's fueling, in general, the stock market. We talked about that. And if you look at the VIX, you look at where we are, we're under 20. So anything under 20 on the VIX is pretty good. If you watch the channel for a while, you know that anything under 20 in my book is pretty bullish. Above 20, it means that the market is a little bit scared. The market is a little bit concerned of a pullback. Right now, we're at 1739. Now, a lot of people are recently talking about a potential pullback. Whenever you have a situation where the stock market is pumping and it's going up, and there's always the possibility that something happens, that Trump says something, and the market pulls back. Tom Lee recently said that he sees potentially a 15 to 20% pullback on the markets. Now, if that would happen, right, 15 to 20%, we would have the market basically where it was, down here when the fear of the war happens. Now, is that a possibility? That could happen. We've seen larger dips than that before, like the tariff dip that we had here, where the S&P 500 dropped 20%. So it's more likely that if we do see some sort of pullback, it could be similar to the pullback that we saw here, maybe a 5% drop off on the S&P 500 in about 30 days. That could happen. A little bit of a pullback. Maybe we test here the 13 EMA, and again, or maybe even the 48, the 50 EMA, and see some sort of pullback towards that level. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. Again, I'm not a prophet. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Of course, individual stocks have their own, cadence. Like for example, SMCI that has had its, of course, famous run-ups as well, but it's also had some shenanigans that has happened with their CEO, and so this is a very volatile, dangerous stock here because it can go up and down in news. Just had earnings and went up 25%. So there's always opportunities in the markets. Of course, the crypto market as well that we talk about a lot on the channel has been a little bit more sleepy recently, but there's also the possibility that that wakes up. And I'm a big believer in diversification. And not putting all your eggs in the same basket. And just want to remind you that this video is for educational purposes, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest, of course. There's always going to be the runners, like SanDisk is up 5,000% in the last 390 days. If you invested $25,000, you would have $1.2 million today, right? SanDisk. I was walking with my kids and wife yesterday, and I said to my wife, you remember, SanDisk, the memory stick, the USB stick company? She's like, yeah, right. I haven't bought one of those in a while. So I told her, well, you know that they have just become like a crazy valuated company because of the AI data centers and the memory that their, memory is basically the best for these data sites. And I said, look at the graph. And she's like, oh my God. She couldn't believe it. They're already 200 billion, market cap. I said, honey, if you bought a SanDisk product in a while, She said, no. I said, I haven't bought either, but the data centers and the companies, they're buying it, right? They're using their products. So sometimes there's a shift from consumer to business, right? So you go from consumer business to corporate business, right? And so there's shifts in companies and the changes, and it will be very interesting to see, what happens here. The stocks rally and U.S. Iran tax blowout tech earnings season. There's been a lot of fear about oil and oil potentially going to $200. Right now, it's under $100, 94. There's a lot of scare about inflation, and yet stocks keep pumping, stocks keep going up. Not every single stock, of course, but it will be very interesting to see. Silver and gold, after having those rallies earlier this year, have cooled off a little bit. Silver sitting at 78 right now. Gold sitting at 4,700. Also, had a all-time high at 5,500, but still really good. Like if you would have invested in gold at the beginning of 2022, you would be up, a significant amount, about 187% for something that's supposed to be stable. Silver also, right? Let's say the February 24, you'd be up 250%. Now, of course, there's always ways that we can, maximize profits, options, especially in the stock market, in the crypto market, using leverage. But those, things come with risk. Okay, so it will be very interesting to see what markets do, how markets react, the crypto market, the stock market, how they react to Trump's pausing of Project Freedom. Let me know in the comment section. What do you think? Are we in store for historical rally, as Trump says here? Whenever he kind of says all-time highs and things like that, markets react. The question is, how are they going to react today? We'll find out. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, we talk about things around the world, the markets, sometimes crypto. Originally, I was started out more a stock heavy channel, and I want to bring that back a little bit. We'll still talk about crypto, don't worry, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I want to, just for my psyche, I research a lot about stocks, and I want to tell you guys about this. So this is an opportunity to do that as well. Okay. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. And like I always say, let's make a lot of money.